And we're live.
All right. Good evening, everyone, on a Thursday night. My name is Alex Books. This is my co-host, Roger Sutherland, and welcome to the Guitar Gear Locker live show number 16.
16.
And, yeah. So, we hope to have a guest this week, but it actually got pushed to next week. And so I think it's going to be a really cool show because I'll actually be one of the guests. I won't even be one of the interviewers. So
Right.
next week we will have myself and Bob, my guitar player in Immolation,
Right.
on guests on the show, and we'll be talking guitar stuff and metal and Immolation, and should be a lot of fun. So
And I will try not to make it a painful interview like I joke about and mess with people about all the time. Because it will actually be me interviewing you and Bob.
Yeah, so it should be really interesting, actually.
I have to admit, I'm nervous. You know that. I already told you that. I'm nervous.
Nothing to be nervous about.
I don't get nervous about much, but there's been a couple of these I've been nervous. There's not a whole lot in life that makes me nervous, but maybe interviewing you and Bob just a little.
Yeah.
We'll see. It'll be fun, though. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, that's just a tall order to, you all are legends in the death metal world. And I mean, that's a tall order to do you guys justice, And not good. Well, and for me, not come off to look like some kind of dork, right?
This will be should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to it.
I think so. I'm kind of joking around. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So, and last week was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was a great chat with Josh from Cattle Decapitation, and it's really cool. Like hearing him talk about all the guitars and his rig and his background. There's a lot of stuff I didn't know, so it was cool. Cool, little chat with him to learn about Josh's past. I had no clue that he was even from Illinois. I thought he was always from California.
Right.
I think I met Josh originally maybe in 2011, something like that. Did a little short tour with them, and I had no clue. So I just figured they were all from California.
Yeah. Well, and I know I talk a lot about us chatting after the show, and we did last week also. And if he looked like a good guy and a really nice guy and super genuine during the show, like he was the same way. He was super cool while we were just kind of BSing afterwards.
Yeah,
really nice, down to earth guy.
Yeah, like you say, a lot of some of the best stuff we talk about is after the interview.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's nothing super juicy, but it's fun. That for me is kind of interesting being a fly on the wall for some of those discussions. But good guy. Everybody's been super decent, and usually what you see in the interview is kind of what everybody's a little more laid back. We're a little more relaxed afterwards, I think, because you can't say everything you want to say while you're live, especially. But I had a good time. I got good comments. Customers had watched it, and that they enjoyed it. They thought it was pretty good. So I had a good time.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
And I think we're gonna kind of like do this schedule where we'll have a guest or a couple guests, and then it'll be you and I. Hopefully we don't bore everybody too much, but I think we always try to keep, enough topics that, guitar news, if you will, that to keep everybody interested. So, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, so it's now 2025. So I know some new guitar companies are starting to drop guitars, and they earlier today I reached out to Roger saying, "Oh, ESP's dropping some guitars." But it's not. You still got to wait a little bit. I thought it was today, but I was going to have some of that.
Well, I guess everybody's kind of gearing up for NAMM, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to see a lot of info come out over the next couple weeks about new gear, new this, new that. I'm really so there's a couple things that I'd be interested. I deal a lot with this isn't necessarily gear, but stuff that we all deal with as tuners. You know, I griped a couple weeks ago, and I'm if I can gripe a little more, I'm curious to see if anybody has anything. I know there's a lot of equipment, but there's also little things that I like watching out for, like tuners. So I use a matter of fact, I use a strobe tuner similar to that. Oh, you can see the reflection in it. You know that it kind of operates. It's wired, but I also have the clip one that I'm trying, and I'm trying a couple of the new super snarks, and I got to tell you, they're junk. They're
Yeah.
absolute trash.
Yeah. I'm
So
not a fan.
I'm kind of. I actually had somebody comment the other day and said, "What do you have? Like one of every kind of tuner?" And it's just like I'm just trying to find one other because I said this a couple weeks ago. So you have to kind of get them dialed in with an accurate tuner like the strobe tuner, but I also have to make it look like in your case, we did it with the tuner that you use when you're on stage. But a lot of these guys are using the clip one, so I have to have it look somewhat accurate to those also in a happy medium. But man, and I say the new Super Snarks, they're new to me because I've had some older ones that the ones I have now, I am not impressed.
Well,
Um,
it's like those snarks. It's like if you have a lot of time to kill to tune your instrument, sure.
right.
If you're on stage or something like that, forget about
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
it. You
Well,
know,
and it's funny because I had thought this, and then a customer was using one because everybody tests out their guitars pretty much when they leave here to make sure it's kind of where they want it to be. And we threw that tuner on there, one of the Snarks, and he even thought that the tuning, he was like, "Wow, it seems to be swinging wildly, like flat and sharp." And what it is I think they've overcompensated for how touchy they used to be, and now, when about the time you get them dialed in at 0, let's say, like, it's not showing that yet. It hasn't caught up because I guess they've tried to increase the stability. So you overcompensate. Next thing you know, it swings past it. It's a pain in the ass. I've been struggling with it here lately because, like I said, I try to get them dialed into those also for the customers. But so I'm curious to see if there's any of that coming out. Some of the electronics, some of that stuff and amps that are coming out.
yeah.
But what one thing, and you kind of announced it today, is the new Kiesels.
Hmm. Yeah.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about, and I know people kind of like swing one way or another on Kiesel's owner. And Kiesel used to be Carvin, and I'm a big fan of Kiesel guitars. I had one. I don't know if you remember it. It was kind of a telly shaped body, but it wasn't. It was by no means a Telecaster. A flat fretboard and really good, solid guitars. And I bought it. It was for sale here in the area, so I picked it up because I never played one. But they're really making some really good changes. And after we get through some of this, I'll project some of them. Unfortunately, they don't have a lot of pictures out on the internet of the front and back. But I do have the video that I'll project up on the screen, and we'll kind of go through it and talk about it'll be Jeff Kiesel holding it. Not that I have Jeff Kiesel live or anything, but I also I think you and I yeah, here we have. I agree with this a lot. Kiesel guitars are so sick. That they're really good. I think like they're almost, you know, custom shop, master custom shop level. Actually, they are. I mean, you make these things, you can go on their website and spec it out and order it, and they're making them by hand. Um, and the prices are nowhere near what those master custom shops and all like you couldn't get a PRS. You couldn't touch a PRS for
Hmm.
what Kiesel's are going for. And they're super solid, super good stuff coming out of there. Um, but just to talk about like the big thing, and like I said, I'll project it up here in a second. I'm sure people watch this video. Um, Feel free to interrupt too, Alex. I know sometimes I get a little talkative.
I'm curious, Roger. What is the average price point for a Kiesel guitar?
So brand new, I think, and we can look, but I think you can usually pick up a really decent one for like 18 to $2,500. That's on
Mm,
the new side. On the used market, here's the downside to Kiesel, and I think they're getting better, is the resale value. But right now, resale values are kind of screwed up anyways on everything. But I bought mine used, and when I sold it, I lost a little bit on it, like, it even went down from where I bought it. But I think the more it's odd because I think people know them, people know who they are because Carvin's been around forever, and Carvins are really good. I've told you there's a really good Carvin base that comes in here, periodically for servicing that's just flawless, and it's older too. So I think that the more that Kiesel name is getting out there, if people don't get hung up on they've heard that Jeff Kiesel is a, whatever, a jerk, whatever they think he is, whatever. I mean, he's just a dude selling a product, you know? I
mhm,
can tell you this, you and I, this is where I was going a couple of minutes ago. You and I both watched Phil McKnight's show. And
mhm.
I think Phil McKnight has been working with him on a lot of these guitars and changes and kind of making some suggestions. And you know what? Phil McKnight's a good guy. I met him in person up at PRS when they had the experience. He was a great guy. And I don't think he's going to hang out with somebody that's a bad person. And he's kind of demonstrated that. And he likes Jeff Kiesel a lot. But Necrosian, I'll throw a comment up here and then I'll get into some. I'll take an
Oh,
ESP Arrow for that 11 price. Yeah, that they are pricier than the ESPs and LTDs for sure. Maybe
yeah,
not
I
the
think.
higher end ESPs.
Well, the E2s, I think you go for brand new around 3 grand, maybe a little bit
Yeah,
more.
right,
The LEDs are around close to 2 grand for
right.
the hour. Now they're up
Yeah,
there.
and I think these are kind of it's I think these are you're either gonna like Kiesels or you're not. You're I think it's an acquired taste. I just like the quality, the build quality of them. But to get into some of the things, and like I said, I'll display it up here. But one of their big things now is kind of where you put your hand. They're playing to the people that play in the higher register and further down the neck. So they're kind of making that hand placement and the carves and the bevels a little more user friendly. They're going with dual jacks on some of their models, dual output jacks. Um, and one thing that I noticed, he didn't really talk about it a whole lot, and I'll show it here in a second, is a lot of his guitars have really glossy finishes, but then there's this clear line of demarcation where you get up to the neck, where the neck is definitely like more of a satin finish. So kind of some cool stuff that they're doing. There's some things that headless, man, that's an acquired taste, and I know you don't like them. They're big
That's
into the headless and the multi-fret.
that's what like when I think of Kiesel, the
Yeah,
guitar is a C or is a headless guitar.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that's like their big seller, or maybe not. I'm
I
not too.
I don't know. Well, what kind of let me project this up here because I think I've talked a lot about it. So let me go into presentation mode here, and I'll flip this up here if I can. Yeah, here's kind of I have to do it over here. So here's the carve. They've done a deeper carve on this down here, to
Yeah,
where and there's the carve is also in this area. Uh-oh, now I hit play accidentally there. But they've done
mhm.
the carve down in here also to help you really get your hand up in this area. But
Yeah,
here's that line that I was talking about, and you can see that on nearly every model. I'm sure they have glossy necks if you want them to get. You could spec these any way you want, by the way. But
yeah.
you can see up here, it's kind of a unfinished maybe or
I like
satin.
that. I like the feel of the wood. On
Yep.
the
Yeah,
so
and you know what? It's weird because I've had a few people that bring their guitars in here and they'll have me do that to the guitar,
yeah.
because they don't like the glossy finish. And I'll
Mhm.
just, I mean, here's a glossy finish one. We're not gonna watch this video, but this is just more. I mean, they did a lot on these videos. I watched some of these videos about this carve right here and how they've kind of created this transition. You see right here, this heel. They've even taken that down and made it easier transition into here. So
So are these like, I guess you would call them like their standard series guitars, or are these uh custom shop made to order guitars?
yeah, so they typically so you can go on their website and I'll project it up here in a second, but you could go on there and you can literally build the guitar on their guitar builder and then it goes into the order queue and then they build it for you. But then they have some that are built and his finishes are awesome.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah,
this
I like that color, that blue and
Yeah, and you could see it there. There's everything from it's not. I know you and I think of headless as Kiesels, but remember they've been around for a while. So
Mhm.
um, and they all pretty much have the neck on the back of it. You see the line up here again, where
Yeah,
they're really. I think they're going for that speed and that comfort on the back of the neck.
yeah, yeah, that's nice.
Now we get into this is where you start getting into the headless. And I've had one of these in here. One comes in every once in a while. And it's really good. It's actually kind of comfortable. And I'm just gonna scroll through this really. This is see, I don't really know you're gonna love this one actually. I don't really know all their model numbers, but it's kind of their Les Paul style with P90s in it.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. And same thing on the back of it. Like I said, well, there you go. There's the back of it. You have the same kind of thing happening where they have, the carve in here, the bevel, and same
Mhm.
kind of transition up here. Just kind of making it more comfortable to get your hand down there.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
so
a
I'm
wood
just,
grain, like a wood grain finish, like something on that guitar that
yeah.
LP. Yeah.
Now, here's where they kind of I mean, let me hit a couple comments in it because we're gonna transition here for a second or in a second. Uh, Trouble said, "I'll still take a BC Rich Shredzilla any day." Cody, I'm sure you will.
Shred, never heard of that.
Shredzilla.
Shredzilla.
She said Shredzilla. Shredzilla. Uh,
I guess that's a model, a BC Rich model, Shredzilla.
I I don't know. Maybe?
You know,
Yes.
I I gotta say,
I
I
haven't seen it if it is.
I've never, there's a couple BC Riches that, if I was able to acquire them, yeah, sure, I would be on my bucket list eventually, but down the line on my bucket list.
Yeah.
But I never been a big fan of those guitars. I mean, they have the crazy shapes, obviously. That I remember as a kid, I saw
Mhm.
Joe Perry with BC Rich Bitch. He's probably the first one I saw, and then like Dave Mustaine and Jeff
Yeah.
Hanneman.
Yeah.
And I always loved the shape of that guitar. But playing those guitars, I never thought they were the best made guitars. But I played some of the USA ones, really good. Like
I've
they
had a couple, and as a matter of fact, I think this morning or yesterday morning that this person texted me and just bought another one of these BC Riches, and his are really nice. Now, when you get, and then Koshin said wide neck, that and
wide
for
neck.
me, that I don't mind the body style. The body style is cool with me, but when you get into the gigantic headstock, that kind of
Yeah, I'm not with that at all.
yeah, it's a
I
little
like
too much.
its headstocks with just the R on there. It's kind of
Yeah,
similar to. I always thought that was cool
yeah,
headstock.
yeah.
They made these guitars in the late '80s. I think I've talked about it on the show
Mhm.
before. they were the gunslingers, which were Strats. So it was their
Yeah.
take on like Charvel Super Strat. And from what I understand, Wayne Charvel was contracted to
Uh-huh.
go in, help build, oversee some of those guitars. From what I understand, I don't know how true it
Right.
is, but those guitars, man, really, really nice. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
long, super strat, hum,
Right.
single, or whatever configuration, or but
Right.
just really nice necks on them.
Right. Well, and it's like when I'm talking about, I know there's probably people watching this that are going like, oh, I like those gigantic headstocks, but sometimes if I say I don't like something necessarily, it may not necessarily because I don't like how it looks or how it plays. I have to fit it on that table right there. And sometimes the shit just gets in the way, right? Those
Mm,
gigantic headstocks, and I don't want to bust half of it off.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and Washburn also had crazy headstocks.
yeah.
Yeah, so some
Well,
of some of the point of view, I mean,
Dean,
I yeah, exactly. When people are thinking of it from the point of view of playing, sometimes things are just a pain in the ass to me because I'm working on them, and I just won't like them because I don't like working on them kind of thing, or they're cumbersome or what have you, just to put that in perspective. But here's so this one here, this is kind of their take. Um, oh, here, Trouble's gonna give us the before I
the
go
set
on.
is basically a Ibanez, but on steroids.
Steroids. You know
Oh,
what? I thought he was messing around, but I have heard of a Shredzilla. I've heard of a lot of guitars, so I don't,
yeah, I have to look that
unless
up.
it's a frequent flyer in here, there I'm finding that I'm getting to the point with guitars that I'm finding myself either slowly getting dementia, or I just do guitars like we used to do fire calls. It's like, okay, that one's over, move to the next. Somebody will come in and they'll be like, well, what was wrong with my guitar? I'm like, I don't know. Read the paper. I wrote it down. I don't remember anymore. Could be
Yeah,
dementia.
yeah.
But
That guitar right there looks like, is that like a roasted maple neck? It looks like.
it is. Well, in this in particular, if you look right there, and I'll scroll through more. So this is their I don't know if you've seen the Tim Henson nylon string, sort of electric, sort of acoustic. Um, this is similar to that, to where you can get it with steel strings or nylon strings, except for the Tim Henson, and he's from Polyphia. We've talked about him offline before. On his, it's more like a nylon string where you have to string it up like a nylon and tie the knots and all that kind of stuff. Where
Mhm.
these, the more traditional, and I think one version in the video he said they had or had locking tuners on it. So he played it. They have a great sound, but man, that's really going to be an acquired taste for you right there. And these are all, in the video. You can go watch this video. Jeff Kiesel talks about, setting down and designing the holes and how he wanted them to go. It looks like a cool guitar. It's just, and it's probably phenomenal. Just kind of not my thing, I don't think. Um, but yeah, he has a lot of nice stuff coming out. You can see back behind him, he has all different kind of
Hip shot,
guitars.
like hip shot bridge, it looks like, right?
Yeah, and they'll literally do anything. When you spec these out, I mean, when you start getting into pickups and all that kind of stuff, they'll put Fishmans in, they'll put anything you want in. I think that's kind of the cool business model that they have. And let me share another screen, and it'll answer the question you had earlier about the types of guitars that they have.
Let's see. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Let me scooch this over here so I can see you.
7 string, right? Or 8 string. Is that an 8 string?
Yeah, they do a lot. I was just getting So again, you can go through their builder right here, and I'll click on it here in a second if you want. But I mean, you can pretty much, it runs the gamut with what they have. And you can set, I think we're actually in the builder. You can hit this and just walk on down it.
Mhm.
But yeah, they have 7 strings, they have 8 strings, they have multi scales. And I think, you know, a lot of the time when I'm thinking of Kiesel now, I'm thinking of multi-scale headless because I see a lot of those. Let's see where. All right, and
16.99.
yeah, that's yeah, 16.99. We can go across here. The headless 19. See, that's not hateful on that.
And that's an American-made instrument?
Made in California. Yep.
Yeah, that's like they're like, you know, higher LTD prices, like, all right, like, yeah, like
Yeah,
1,900.
now I can tell you, it's sort of like a car though. Like this, what you see is 16.99. But if you go in there and throw a set of Fishmans in there, you know, different this, different that, different fretboard, it will adjust the price accordingly. But they're still, I mean, you look at that, some of the stuff they're doing is just beautiful.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they do
yeah.
it really good. But did I already have that one up there? Let me go back. But and then you get into like there's, you know, Strat style guitars in here. They make right there.
Mhm. Ah, that's cool. Yeah.
And that's probably kind of going back to their roots, you know, when they were carving.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, good guitars. And I think these are some of the older ones, star shaped guitars. They do a lot
Yeah.
of crackle finishes and things like that.
Yeah, that looks like the carbons I remember, like
Yeah,
that X, you know, kind of shape or whatever. Even it's like the Rhodes style body, but the opposite. I remember when they put those guitars out, carbon, way
yeah.
back. And if I remember correctly, I used to get the catalogs for Carvin in the 80s
Uh-huh.
in the mail.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you do, and I remember, you know, if I compared the prices and it was a, you know, USA instrument, if you
Right.
compared it, say, like Jackson or Charvel or something like that, it was
Right.
way cheaper, you know, still even that compared to
Right.
USA
Right.
something like, or BC Reds or something like
Yeah,
that, I
and
should say.
that's kinda I know we talked about a V earlier and taking one of those. I mean, but this what comparatively speaking, like, we're talking about American guitars, like, you just can't get them like, made to order American guitars, in this quality. That I think that's the body style I had. What is that thing called? No, that was
Kinda
the
like a
body style that I had. And like I said, I just got it. I didn't really like the body style a whole lot. I got it because it was local and it was a good price. Just kinda wanted
mhm,
to test the waters on that. Trying to find the one, it wasn't even that. And it had, good set of pickups in it. Really just, I mean, it was a Telecaster. I forget what the radius of the fretboard was, but it was almost like stainless steel frets. It was like a shredder Telecaster. I
wow.
think you saw it, right? It was like, I think it
I
was
think
their version of Surf Green.
right.
So I'll catch up on comments for a quick second. Yep,
Fishman's are
Fishmans are amazing. I just did a set. Steinberg. I had a Steinberg in here recently. It actually wasn't bad. I'll tell you this. Just a little bit on Steinberg. The imports are really good, but the one that I had was more for Steinberg, more entry level, and the frets were horrible, like super sharp. I was pretty surprised that it was a Steinberg. Um, style
yeah.
headset. Oh, like a Steinberg, yeah. And there, we'll talk about it. Remind me to talk about the tuning here in a second, like
Yeah, I
restringing.
Legator, is that how you say it?
Legator.
That's a Canadian guitar, right? Am I correct? Or am I wrong?
You know what? I don't think so, but they could be. I almost bought one. like I was getting ready to pull the trigger on it, and I didn't because it was a Legator, and I think the one I was looking at was like 12. This has been a couple years ago. It was like 12 or $1,400, and I was like, yeah, I don't think so. I even reached out to them, and they weren't awesome to deal with. So they
Yeah.
could be awesome guitars. I'm sure they are, but
They're
I can't.
they're USA Guitar from Los Angeles. Okay.
Legator?
Yeah, you know what? Actually,
They're made here, or that's where the distributor is?
I don't know. It looks like they're from California. It says was founded 2012 in Los Angeles, California.
I can tell you this. My opinion is you're going to hear more from them in the future.
You know, I don't know if he still does. My friend Matt that plays in Broken Hope, he used to play in Chimera. I'm pretty sure he plays those guitars. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure I checked out his once years ago.
Right, right.
You know, it wasn't a bad instrument. Legator, is that how you say it?
I thought it was Legator.
Equilibrium have
Crazy head. I have to check those out.
I'm familiar with Equilibrium.
And I played
Steinberger back in the 90s. And how was it? How was it? I assume this is Joe, Mr. Joe Young of Necrosion.
Oh, that wasn't who was. Is that who was here early? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. How were those guitars, Joe? If you can reply, I'm curious.
Yeah, the one that I was talking about, the more entry level one, it was pretty cool, but I don't know if it was comfortable but odd. I think it's something that would take some getting used to. But I think it's something once you got used to it, it'd be cool.
Did you notice like the tone of those guitars are any different? I mean, killer low action.
Yes,
okay.
That is fact. Yeah, and you know what? Same with a lot of these. Great sound, he said.
Great sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're good guitars. They're just different. I mean, it's like anything else. There's some things that it's not good or bad. It's just different.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, the last night I picked up a couple different guitars. I was fiddling around a little bit, and you know, it's funny how like different specs, how there's different tones. I'm kind of getting back into the bolt-on thing since I got you know, Roger to fix up my old DSP, and there's definitely, I mean, I love the feel, you know, of that, you know, on, you know, the wood, you know, you could feel the piece of wood there, but they definitely have a different sound to it. Not better or worse or anything like that, but I think a bolt-on guitar. It's kind of like I don't know if this makes, because really when we sit here and talk about the science of guitars, nobody knows. You could just sit there, how come this thing is doing this? I don't know, but it just does. It makes it sound like, but you know, it's a solid piece of wood, right, on the body with the neck bolted onto it. So I don't know, maybe it has something to do with it, but it's got like a fat tone to it, like fat, not necessarily big in the sense of like a Les Paul or something like that. But there's like a meatiness to it, and I don't know if that makes any sense, you know, because it's a solid piece of wood there, you know. Does that make sense to you? Or
yeah, it does. So it's funny. It's almost like you were standing in here earlier and heard a conversation because you know that guitar that I harp on a lot, the Charvel Model 6 that I really need to get one. It's in for service again because he has some stuff coming up, and you know he is one that if it's not like he wouldn't have any other Charvel except for that one because it's neck through. He doesn't want to bolt one at all. And he and another customer that were in here, we're talking about bolt ones and neck throughs, and people have some really strong opinions one way or another, you know. And I think there's something. I was watching something last week where you know people were talking about shims and you know on the strats putting a shim in the neck to get the action, which I've seen some crazy stuff used for shims, but you know some of that could have an effect on the tone also. Excuse me, sorry about that. So I think some of that in the tilts and all that because you're not making full contact, but there's probably something to it. You know, it's
Hmm.
probably I wouldn't imagine it's your imagination. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah,
but
it's
so
just the mad science of guitar making. It's just like there's
yeah,
no real understanding of why, certain like a cheaper guitar that sounds better than, more expensive guitar.
right,
What's going
right.
on? Maybe
Well,
there's
and
just some
a
magic in
lot of
some.
the time, and we kind of did this today too. Like, expensive doesn't always equal a better playing guitar.
True.
You know, I think if you get a good setup on it, I'm not saying that because I do setups, but it's true.
Yeah.
Um, you know, the new stuff that this is or a Yamaha bass on the bench behind me that I did some fretwork on today, and and the lady that brought it in, she was almost convinced she had to take it back because it was buzzing so bad, and it's brand new, brand spanking new. And it's
Mhm.
hard to tell people that something that's brand new, and we've talked about this a lot on this channel, something that's brand new needs work on it already. It's hard to convince somebody of that because it makes no sense.
Yeah.
Um, I'm just watching. He's asking if he still has the Steinberg. Oh, he had the Steinberg.
Oh, I don't know. I think he said he played one. I think that's what he said.
Yeah.
He might have.
Alright, so here's the thing. So that, semi-hollow that I showed you, he
Mm.
has the weight on that at 5 pounds. So, pretty light guitar, and,
Wow.
I mean, they're probably really nice. I have to tell you, I have the Tim Henson one, and I didn't get it because of Tim Henson. I had a nylon string come through, a classical nylon string, and I was like, "I probably need a nylon string in my life." So that was on sale here at Marketplace, and I picked it up, and it's actually a pretty cool guitar. I like it. So they're probably awesome, Kiesel's version. That one's not bad. But there's some of the things that he went over, and you can watch all this in the video. Like he talks about strap buttons. It has their one and maybe more than one model, but specifically, I think it was their headless had two strap buttons, and
Mhm.
one is actually the strap button, and I would almost venture to call the other one a kickstand because when the way that it's on kind of the heel of it. Hold on, let me share it. And I'll sit here and draw on the screen, but I'll throw one up here so we can look at it. Um, I'm actually kind of catching the hang of this. I don't think this is all right. So you can see this one here. You have the strap button right there, and this is probably a horrible example. Hold on a second. There's
Maybe
one
something
that's
like
like no, there's one that it's a we'll just go with this, for the sake of time. Alright, so you see the strap buttons right there. Well, on this one particular model, the strap button is there and the other strap button is there. But when you look at it over here, there's one output jack. There's also one on the back of the guitar, so dual output jacks, and then they have another strap button, and he said, "I just want everybody to know that that's not like, why would you put the strap button there because it gets in the way of the output jack?" They put it there because if you're setting the guitar down, it sets it on basically 2 strap buttons, not on the finish. So they kinda did that as a way to have it set more evenly if you put it down on something. Um, so that was kinda cool, and then I wish that they had a picture of, where the output jack so one is down here, where or actually right there, where it is on the traditional ones, and on the rear of the guitar, there's another one that goes in the actual back of the guitar. So, yeah, pretty cool little things they thought of. There
Mhm.
is one thing, and I know not everybody's a big headless, guitar fan, but if you do get the headless, the one with the trem, you can't get dual output jacks with that. No, I know we're making this like a Kiesel commercial, and we're just going over it because I think we're doing it because I think Kiesels are kinda cool. I like them, but I think they're they're making good guitars. So I think it's like noteworthy to talk about. The other thing for anybody that's ever, if you've had a Kiesel that's headless, you know this. If you haven't, you're getting ready to learn something about them. So the ones that predate the new ones that are coming out are kind of a pain in the ass to restring. You have to set the string in here. It goes in a certain way. You almost have to kind of finesse it. So I think so many people, and I think Phil McKnight was actually part of that. He talked about it on a show last week, where they talked about how difficult it is to just restring it. And on his show last week, on his podcast, he literally sat there and put a low E string on, and while he was talking. So whatever that issue was, they took care of, which is a big thing for this model, especially if you restring a lot of guitars.
So how does that work anyway? I mean, because like say you have like a Floyd Rose type of tremolo, is it like how does that work with the neck? Like the top?
So this one here, you're talking about the strings. The strings go in this little area right here, and your tuning key is right there, tuning key, if you will, for lack of better terms. And then you pull it up through here, and then there's a little locking nut, if you will, like a little hex head that just clamps down on the string. So you pull it up, you can clip them off. What's that?
So it functions kind of like an Evertune where you're doing the fine tuning down on the bridge.
Right? Yeah, it's almost like having fine tuners on a Floyd, only they adjust like a regular tuner. Nothing's locked down. They're like up here is just like the end of the guitar. It's not locked down. So these tuners operate just like a regular tuner. Let's see. We have a cool and a top.
Cool top.
Oh, cool top. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that is. They have some really cool stuff, man. They do some crazy shit with guitars, man. They will literally do whatever you want. So again, this is a commercial for them. We're just kind of coming up with some this was timely. They just announced their new line, so we figured we would go over that. Let me look at. Yeah, I talked about the glossy finishes and the transition to the neck. I like that. That's a really good idea, I think. I hate necks that are too glossy. It seems like they get kind of gummy. And really they're catering to the players that like to play a fast neck and like to play higher up in the frets. So that's really what they're looking for. And we all know it's all about, kind of where your hand meets that thing and how comfortable it feels, and not trying to work up that big heel down there. They've also, like, their basses are phenomenal too. So they've reworked those. They look really good. Like, a bass version of their guitars. So they're doing some good work. Let's see, gas mask and hand grenades. Hey, Alex and Roger took a quick break from the Penn State game to say, "Hey, how are you doing? Who's winning?"
They're playing Notre Dame, right? Is it Notre Dame? I think.
You got me.
I think so. Yeah. We're doing all right.
Yeah, we're doing great. Thanks for coming by. It has been a while. So I guess that's it on Kiesel. We tied 10-10.
Oh, wow.
That's your team, right? Aren't you a Penn State guy?
Penn State. My cousin actually played for Penn State in the 70s.
Really? That's cool.
And one of my uncles went there.
Yeah, I hate to say it. I'm a Maryland fan. Imagine that, being from Maryland, but I'm still stuck in the ACC days. The Big Ten, I just can't get down with it. That's a different story. So this week, Ultimate Guitar also came out with their 3 overhyped guitar trends, which they called snake oil. Let's see where we beginning of the fourth quarter, but Notre Dame is starting to gain a lot of momentum. Sadly. Well, Since if you're a Penn State fan. Yeah, see, that's a good thing about being a Maryland fan. We don't have to watch sports as late in the season. We're long gone. So I'm gonna skip over. I don't know what germanium transistors and diodes. That was their number one. Number two was tube amps. So, what do you think?
I'm a tube amp guy, so I don't know. I still haven't played anything that beats a tube.
Yeah.
How about you?
I have actually right now 2 tube amps. I'm probably gonna offload that Blues Junior because it's not mine. But I'm actually thinking about experimenting with a quad Cortex.
Okay.
Because
I love the effects on all those amps when they have all the crazy stuff in there. But it's just when you just to that pure guitar into the amp, it's just wow.
Right. Oh, I get. So don't get me wrong. I like tube amps. The Croatian just said tubes roll. I get. Well, wait a minute. We get a Notre Dame
1710
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And then tubes roll. I think so. I guess my thing is, for me, I like both. So you and I have talked about this a lot. Like I like going to a concert and feeling it, and we've talked about it. The sound hit you in the face. I like that, but I also like smaller local venues when you go in there and you know what, my ears aren't bleeding after I leave. In one of these little breweries or whatever. So and some of these guys are getting really good sounds out of Helix or the FM9 fractals and that kind of stuff. But if you read in it, I'll save everybody from the article. I kind of read through it pretty fast. They're talking about people that live in apartments or live in places or have in my case, a wife that will yell at you if you get too loud. So you can kind of get some of those sounds dialed in without being too aggressively loud. So I think there's a place. And we interviewed somebody that talked about the quad Cortex early on. I forget who.
Yeah, we did. I can't remember.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I think it was De Leon, right?
Mike. Oh, maybe
Right?
maybe it was. Yeah.
I think it was him. It was a while. I can't believe I remember that. But so I'm thinking of either, I have the older version of the Fractal. And I got that because I didn't know what they were all about. I wanted to experiment. I need a tube amp because I wind pickups and I can't have an artificial sound. And sometimes you can make those sound like anything. So I'm thinking I'm either gonna upgrade because I have found that there's a place in my life for a Fractal or something like that, do a FR, or actually I have 2 of them. So I'm either gonna upgrade and go to the FM9 or the quad Cortex. I'm kind of researching those 2 now. So I just think there's a place. I'll tell you this. I think it's kind of generational too. There are a lot of people that I see that come in, and there's probably somebody that if he wasn't shy, he could kick in the comments right now because he's probably watching. But a lot of these younger guys are playing right through their computer. So a lot of people are doing that. So there's a lot of different. I guess what I'm saying is I think they all have their place. I don't necessarily. They said there's snake oil. I definitely don't think a tube amp. They wouldn't be around this long if they were snake oil.
Yeah, I mean one thing's definitely for sure I'll have to say is technology has definitely gotten better with that. Like as far as like digital stuff, like compare like the digital, rack piece, pieces you would get in the early '90s or whatnot.
Right.
There's definitely some leaps as far as that goes. And for at home, of course. I mean, I would have something like that. I should. I mean, eventually, I'm going to need something like that at
Right.
home, just working on music or whatnot.
Right.
And, definitely a great tool. So
Well,
I'm not like, hey, I'm anti all that, but I think like live and in the studio, like recording a record, like
right. Well, and
especially
the
for,
way I did it, of course, I know that you know most of this, but for the people watching, the way that I did it, I bought the older version because I didn't really know anything about them. I just wanted to experiment, and I had somebody that said, "Hey, I have a bunch of presets, so I have the AX8." So they said, if you get the AX8, which is the outdated version, I have the presets. I'll just dump them all in, and sometime, like in my case, when I sit down and play, it's usually 6, 7 o'clock at night. And I've been in this room wrenching on guitars all day. So I just want to sit down. I don't find that I enjoy sitting down and going like, let me get onto my computer and set this cabinet up with this and dial this in. I don't like that at all. But if you're playing Crazy Train, I just like hitting a friggin' button and going Crazy Train or
yeah.
Sad But True, and I have, those presets in there and you can just hit a button and you don't have to sit there and dick around with stuff, which I kind of do like that. And I do find with my tube amp, you witnessed this, and it happened again today is, when I walk away from my amp, people mess with my pedal settings and my amp settings. So it's never the same. It's always not where I put it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I'll catch up real quick. I just got a quad, not as a head, but as a preamp. And I hit his other one.
Quad is
Quad is
killer.
killer as an effects unit and for recording, but it's basically not enough as a head into a cab.
That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I don't like I said, I I know what the Fractal is. I know what the FM9 is. I know somebody that plays with a Helix. So I'm familiar with those. Um, the Fractal doesn't like in my head, the Fractal should work differently than it does. Like it has I don't even truly understand all of it. And it's probably very useful if you're gigging out, know what you're doing with it. But
Mhm.
it has these scenes and it has all different things and different settings. I was basically when I originally got it, I got it to explore with it, but it was also another way, like when guys are testing out their guitars after I do work on it. I was gonna have, you sit down, fire it up, and I would have one button that would be clean, one would be semi-dirty, one would be dirty, like crunchy. And it didn't necessarily work that way for me because I didn't want to keep firing up my tube amp every time somebody came over to test something out. So, gas mask and hand grenades, do you like the quad? So, like I said, I have more research to do on it. I'm gonna go some way with it. The good thing is, like, it's really odd that, like, a AX8 is pretty outdated at this point, but I mean, they're still fetching some decent money on the secondhand market.
Speaking of amps, there's I am, it's a Boogie amp that just came out. It's actually a reissue. What is it called? I should know this. So this amp, what is it called? Oh, the Mark II. I think it's a
Mhm,
Mark II. So I, I'm not a big fan. I know some of my friends like swear by Boogie, like triple rectifiers or double. I've never been a fan of the rectifiers, but I like all their other stuff that they make. And so this amp is a reissue of the Mark II, and it's probably best known for Master of Puppets, a Metallica
uh-huh,
album. That's where James used, I think, pretty much all his rhythm tracks were done on that. He might have used some other stuff, but um, those heads, I remember, and for the longest time, I couldn't understand why Boogie put out the rectifier, which is a super, what do you call it again? Super powerful amp, but I just
uh-huh.
never liked the tones I got out of those amps. But this Mark II, a friend of mine that passed away a few years ago, he used to have one,
Uh-huh.
I remember, like, man, it sounded so damn good, you know. So I'm not
Yeah.
sure if you saw, and I know there was some criticism about it I saw on the internet because you know Gibson obviously acquired owns Boogie now,
Right.
and they put out like the worst video possibly of that amp. They're like, here it is, and it just sounds like a super clean, like just shitty guitar tone. Like
Yeah.
here, you know, take. And I think recently they changed it because they got so much backlash from
Right.
people just going off like that is the worst fucking possible, you
Right.
know, presentation of this amplifier whatsoever. You're trying to sell something
Right.
like shit, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the amp is actually that would be a bucket list for me. And you know, it's a tube amplifier. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
called.
when you said Gibson made a video, I was thinking like, what could go wrong with that?
Yeah, it's the Mark
What could
II
go wrong
C.
there?
I think it's the Mark II C. I think that's what it's called. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, really killer amp, you know.
So
And
that's your next thing.
oh, I would love that. I don't know about that.
You know what?
Maybe
You
I,
couldn't fit it in there. I wish everybody could see to the right of you. You and I know what's in it. That thing is gigantic.
oh, the EVH. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that thing, like to the right of you, that's where his amp is.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Like
that thing
if
is a monster.
we, you
So
know,
Necroshin
Bob,
said he said Henny. I didn't want to interrupt. I threw it up, but I didn't want
Joe,
to.
I know the amp you're talking about that Henny owned. That wasn't the Mark II. That was oh, it was like a blue head. It was a Boogie. I can't remember the name. Nomad. That's it. It's a Mesa Boogie Nomad. Not not entirely geared for extreme metal. But man, what a great fucking amplifier that was. So yeah, Henny
Yeah.
had a Mesa Boogie Nomad, which I'd love to own one of them as well. Okay, man, the Mark II-C archetype, the amp sims are fucking quad if you buy.
Gargantuan in the quad if you buy the pack. See,
Ah,
and that he just with that one comment, he scared the shit out of me because he said it's gargantuan, and I just went simple because I'm old. I just I'll push a button.
yeah,
Let's
yeah.
see. Alex, your tones at the decibel thing were so
Ah,
heavy, and tones blew all the other bands off the stage that day.
our EVHs. That's just the first what is that model called? Oh, I can't even think of it right now. But the first amps that Eddie put out, which that's what we use live, you know. And
That's
the
not
amp,
what you have with you right now?
no, I have the oh, what is that called? The Stealth.
Yeah,
Stealth is
that
a
thing sounds good.
yeah. Oh, the Stealth is fucking ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like I think we were talking about maybe we were talking about it with Jeremy on the show. So you know you have the three channels. You have your clean channel. You have the blue. Yes, yes, sir. EVH3. You're right. You're absolutely right. So you have your clean, your blue, and your red channel.
Uh-huh.
So the blue is you know is the channel I use the most. The red channel is just so much gain. It's insane. So when they made the Stealth, I heard like, oh, well, you know, it's more gain, you know, and there's definitely a lot more features to the amp, which I still haven't explored yet. But
Right.
the thing is, on the blue channel, which is what I use for rhythms mainly, this blue channel's just got a little extra, little, you know, like the quote Spinal Tap, but these go to 11, you know, and
It's
I always
more than 10.
yeah, yeah. So, and Jeremy brought up in the interview, he said, if that blue channel just had that little extra little something there, man, it would be perfect. So now you have the Stealth, and that blue channel is just absolutely phenomenal. You
Yeah.
know, it's just an amazing amplifier. I fucking love it. Are you
That needs
guys using pedals on stage? No.
that's straight
Bob,
up amp, right?
it depends on like what song we're playing, but there's a couple songs where Bob will use like a delay or something like an octave pedal for certain parts to because like on the record, like for instance, there's give you an example. There's a song called "Harnessing Ruin," and the beginning of it, there's probably like 4 or 5 different guitar tracks going on. You know, so between what I'm doing and then what Bob does with like the octave pedal, you know, it adds that little extra little, you know, bigness or whatever you want to, you know, make it bigger or whatever, and harmonize it. But yeah, it's really just straight into the amp. I mean, I use just a noise gate, you know, wireless and straight into the amp, and maybe a wah pedal, depending on
Oh
if I'm
yeah,
playing anything. You know, no wah. I actually use a wah, yeah. And actually, on the last record, we just haven't played any of the songs where I'm playing those solos,
I didn't
and I
know
use it.
that. I didn't
Yeah, yeah.
realize that.
Maybe next tour I'll bring the wah out if we play one of those songs that I'm playing leads on.
Yeah, there you
So,
go.
but yeah, I mean, straight in. Bob's straight in. He's you know, he don't even have a noise gate. He's just straight into the amp. And
Is he
that
Fishman's? Does he
he
play
uses
Fishman?
strings. Yep,
I thought
yep,
so.
yeah. We're the same. You know, we use everything the same. ESP
Yeah,
guitar,
that's cool.
EVH amps, and Fishman pickups.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
So, not to be a taskmaster, but working down my list, I want to make sure we hit everything. Even maybe some of these.
yeah, we don't want to. We got Bob coming on next week, so we don't want to say
Yeah,
too
we
much.
don't.
You
Yeah.
know, we'll save that for next week
So
for the
private message me questions. So I don't know if you saw this, the Joe Bonamassa's guitar collection. Did you see that? Threatened by the
I've
fire.
I've been looking at his guitar collections for the past 10 years, I think.
No, they're threatened. He was like, I knew this would happen one day. I
Oh
don't think he
shit!
burned up, but he's like, I knew this would happen one day. I'm like,
In LA,
"Damn."
right? Because I think he has a place in LA and he's in Nashville as well. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
Let me. But and I have a little lecture with this. Oh no, it's no big deal. We just didn't want to give away next week.
Joking, you know, because Bob's coming on.
Yeah. Did
Yes,
you say
sir.
Rob? Yes.
Rob.
Yes, he will. Bob will be here next week.
Robert, Bob. Whatever you
Robert.
choose to call
Well, and
Robert.
for anybody that missed the beginning, next week I will be interviewing Alex and Bob. I'll be trying not to blow it. So, all right, before I listen, speaking of which, I got to reach out to Bob and Ross about coming on my gig one of these days.
Yeah. Be cool.
Yeah. Well, keep your fingers crossed that I don't blow it next week, because if I do that poorly, they might not want to do any more interviews. No, I'm just messing around. So here's the thing. So it surprised me. Well, you know, it always surprises me, you know, given my history, when people say, I knew this would happen one day, but he's standing there in like this garage full of cases or wherever he was. Like, we know he has all these vintage guitars and he has them out in this high fire area. Of course, they say it'll never happen, but shit happens, you know? But
Mhm.
so here's my takeaway. And I hope I say this every once in a while, but insure your guitar collections. People don't realize that. Um, and of course, like we all know, the story is like, you know, everything can be replaced, but like some of those things, maybe they can't in his collection. But and I know a lot of guys that have really expensive guitar collections and they don't have them insured. Get supplemental insurance, because your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover it.
Yeah.
It has a limit on what guns, jewelry, guitars, cash, things like that. So make sure you have supplemental insurance on your guitars if you have these big collections, so you can get them replaced.
Even you know, and then there's like the irreplaceable ones, like you said. It's like, say if it's something sentimental, and you know, I have 3 guitars that I would never part with.
Right.
You know,
Right.
they're super sentimental to me, and yeah, I mean, I can't imagine.
Well, and you know, when I'm saying so when you hear me say things like, "Well, keep in mind everything can be replaced." That's the firefighter in me saying that. You know,
Yeah.
that's what's
Well,
been and it's true. You can replace stuff, you can't replace people.
absolutely.
But when you make it out of the fire and you go to replace your stuff and they say, "Oh, well, you only had $5,000 to replace all of your jewelry and your guitars," it's pretty important. And that insurance is pretty cheap. There's a couple companies that specialize in just doing guitars. So find them. It's pretty reasonable. I
Mhm.
have actually double. So I have one for, God forbid something happens if I'm working on somebody's guitar. So I have one on the business, then one on my guitars. So and it's not, I think I just paid it. It's like maybe $150, something. Kevin Huffman almost lost all of his guitars in a fire just before Christmas. He got
Wow.
lucky in the fire and missed that room. Yeah. Yeah, and it happens. I mean, I've seen guitars, go in fires. Then I've seen the craziest shit not burn up in a fire, so it's kind of weird. But yeah, it's just a good thing. I saw that in I think that was in Ultimate Guitar also, and I just found this quote to be kind of odd. I think it's odd when somebody said, "I knew this would happen one day." Okay, then why didn't you make it not happen? I don't
Yeah.
I don't know that he lost any guitars. I think he was all right in that whole thing out there.
Man,
Anyways,
terrible.
the moral of the story is just make sure you get your guitars covered. Um, 2025 NAMM show is coming up, so a lot of good stuff. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Mhm.
Um, there was oh let me get to this first real quick, just so everybody knows. Some of us that do the repair stuff, we're being notified by some of our vendors that there's increases. So some of the companies are starting to see increases again, like we did during not gigantic increases. These are probably just more cost of doing business increases. So we're going to see the price of like some strings are going to go up, some electronics parts and things like that. So just wanted to kind of pass that on, that we've been notified by some of the vendors that there's going to be some increases in some of their products. um I've also had this is I try to think of things that are helpful hints for people also, and things that I run across. I told you, as I'm like scrolling through things during the week, I'll do a screenshot to save it to talk about it. One of the things was a person that was having a lot of problems with. So this time of year, of course, we tell everybody, make sure you keep humidification on your guitars and keep everything humidified. But as dry as everything is, especially down, it's super cold here now and snow on the ground, and nobody knows how to act, of course. But you get a lot of static electricity. So on guitars like Strats and anything that has kind of a nylon plasticky pick guard on it, you can sometimes get that. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It's like you rub your hand across it if you're playing, and you'll get like that little zapping sound in it. So
Huh.
little help. Yeah, have you ever had that? I've had it
No.
happen a few times. It sometimes it gets a little dry, and I have a pretty good humidifier, but still, it's winter. So
Mhm.
you run your hand across it sometimes, and you'll just hear little zaps going off, and you can hear it in the pick guard and hear it through the pickups. So good
Okay.
little helpful hint is like static guard, dryer sheets, whatever. I usually take a dryer sheet that's been through the dryer once, so it doesn't have the crap on it. And
Mhm.
then, I mean, it smells fresh like your laundry when you're done too. So good little helpful tidbit there. I just try to pass along little helpful things. Um, Other thing and things that I've seen. So I can tell you this. So I won't say who it was, but we interviewed somebody early on that was talking about. We talk about guitar voodoo a lot. Like I sometimes I chuckle about some of it. Um, so we've talked a few times about not having a neck pickup because it pulls on the strings and things like that. And I'll be honest, there's been a couple of times that I don't know if y'all can see me rolling my eyes or not, but I'm sitting here going, "Oh, geez, man, the shit that people don't come up with." I gotta tell you, It's real. It's real. And you and I may have talked a little bit about this, but so especially this guitar in particular is a snake bite. So cool guitar, good foundation, but we put a heavier set of strings on it to convert it over to a baritone. And the super thick B string kept going in and out of tune. Like it would go sharp, then flat, then sharp. And it wasn't the damn Snark tuner this time. Like it was doing it on every tuner we tried it on. So I can't jab at Snark again. But it actually was. I had to lower the bass side of that pickup because the pickup actually was kind of pulling it. Like it was kind of just, I'll say, tugging on it just enough to get it to go sharp, and then it would release it and it would go flat. It was just all over the place, super unstable, and did a little monkeying around with it. Finally lowered that side of the pickup a little bit, and the issue went away. So it's a thing. So, and just something like these are things like, I know sometimes I like to like put them on this show. For one, if anybody's wrenching on guitars, they it's a helpful hint. But the other is, for people that are searching for it, because I'm that guy sometimes is like, what the hell is making this do this? So get it out there, get it searchable, and I'll put it in the little chapters that we do. But yeah, so it's a real thing. I thought y'all were full of shit.
Even the like the one humbucker thing on the guitars, there's definitely a unique sound. I think the guitar makes, like, and speaking of like not as expensive guitars, like I have this LTD black metal Eclipse, and it's one humbucker. It's one of the best sounding guitars I own. Is LTD with the one humbucker. You worked on this guitar, and I think you saying like, wow, it's really high up, like because it's a pickup,
Uh-huh.
But yeah, man, there's definitely something to one humbucker. And you're right. I can't remember who that was. We were talking about one humbucker guitars.
I know who it was. I'm not saying it.
Well, it's okay. Jed Simon. I think it was Jed Simon.
No, right? No. Well, and we've actually talked about it a couple times. But
Jed was
a signature guitar. But we've talked about it a couple times, and it's really weird because and I was basing this on yours. So I was tuning this particular guitar to B, you're in C. And if I raise the tuning up to C on this particular guitar, it would be fine because you put more tension on it. But I guess the mass of that string, because it was a super thick string, I forget what gauge it was, but I guess the mass of the metal string and, the low tuning, the B, I mean, it's super flimsy up there anyways. So yeah, it kind of did. We haven't had that problem with yours that much though.
That's really interesting. Like we were talking about it the other day, I think, and the guy was saying, like, if you take all the strings off the guitar and you try to talk into it, it's not gonna do anything, and you have to have those strings on there for the coils to activate, right? Is that correct? So
well, no, sometimes they could get microphonic. You can actually, who was it we were talking about that they were singing, I think Stone Temple Pilots did that on a song, right? Where he sang into the pickups. But I don't know if it has anything to do. Sometimes if I wind a pickup and you wind a hot one, you can talk into it. I don't know if I never really pay attention if it has anything to do with strings or not. I wouldn't think.
The magnet pulling on the strings, that's interesting, like get out of tune. It's
and you know what? In all fairness, like I hear a lot of stuff, right? Like a lot of people say a lot of things like, well, if you do this to a guitar, Billy Corrigan, one of my favorites with Smashing Pumpkins, white guitars sound different. And people believe that. And maybe it does, but I don't know. Like, how do you prove that scientifically, But yeah, this one, this was it was a head scratcher. And it's one of those where, I want, when I do a setup, you know how it is. When I do a setup, I want to make sure you're happy with it. And, you know, if one comes back in, I kind of take it personally. And when it comes in twice, I'm stumped. I'm sitting here going like, what in the hell could be doing this? Did the nut, did it? Because usually it's a nut, you know.
Mhm.
Got everything like super smooth, you know, as low friction as I could, and it's still doing it. And then I ran across something, and you know, I was like, "There's no way." And I ran downstairs and I tried it. I was like, "Son of a bitch!" Yeah, so it's a thing. So at
Yeah.
least it was with that guitar. Yeah, so
It's
it's
interesting when it's come up, but like after years of, say like for you working on guitars or me just playing guitars forever, like that's the
yeah.
first time I ever heard something like that, where the
Well,
magnet actually pulling the string out of tune, you know?
yeah, and I knew I could do it, but I mean, normally I'm dealing with, you know, some guys use 11s, you use 13s.
Mhm.
Um, but I'm mostly dealing with 9s and 10s and like passive pickups. And these were the headset was the pickups. So
Mhm.
and they weren't doing anything wrong, but I mean it nowadays we're getting into like I told you, I'll show a picture of it if we have time here at the end, the one that I and he's probably not wanting to comment, but he may be watching. A nice LTD that went out today that we put some new pickups in, and we did a custom set of strings on that. They were gigantic, 14 to 184. No, it was like 14 to something. I forget the number. Gigantic strings, but I'm doing like nowadays in guitars, we're doing a lot of unique tunings. Today was drop G sharp. So, you know, these lower tunings, and it all goes back to physics and science. You know, the looser string, more mass, you can get more pull on it. Um, I think they're, oh, wait a minute. I thought they were talking amongst themselves. But let's see. Yeah, both LTD and ESPVs.
Yes, I have the ESP and the LTDs.
They're
So
super.
it's honestly they're both great. Like funny, like you have an LTD, which is more mass produced instrument compared to an E2. Which, by the way,
Yeah.
everybody, to clarify, I can't believe still hear people talk about this. I see it on the internet. E2 is ESP. It is an
Yeah.
ESP. It's just standard. It's a standard series ESP. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, like I don't know, man. I have they both have their pros and cons, like there's certain LTDs I pick up for certain reasons that have a certain feel that I like better than say the ESP
Mhm.
Japanese. So or vice versa, So I
Right.
there's really no uh, I gotta say, I mean, that's my hats off to the people in Korea that are making these LTDs because they're fantastic instruments. So
Right.
you definitely, if I would say anything, you get your bang for your buck with an LTD, no doubt. And
I
the
think
ES,
they're getting better.
they're definitely getting better.
I
Yeah,
think they're
no
getting
doubt.
and I can tell you this, that this is only opinion, like, there's nothing based in science in what I'm getting ready to say, but it seems to me like a few years ago, if you got an LTD, it was like, "Okay, well, this is kind of the lesser than ESP," but and it's just anecdotal information that I'm putting out now, but it seems to me and what I see, the LTDs that are coming out now are really, really good.
Yeah, no
So,
doubt.
and I think that way of thinking, like LTD is less than, is kinda going away.
Yeah.
The
No,
the
it's not.
LTDs are super the last one, and we've talked about this a lot. The last ones you brought in have been awesome.
Mhm.
Let me throw another one. I guess we kinda just
Well, I mean, you know, say for instance, locking tuners, you get like in E2, you got the Goto locking tuners, where LTD, if you get a locking tuner, it's like the LTD version of the locking tuner, which,
right.
is probably a little bit, it's still quality. Obviously the Goto is probably is better, you know, I
Right.
would say. But I mean, there's certain hardware stuff. Maybe that's better. Maybe sometimes the electronics are better. Sometimes the fret works better.
Right.
You know, I mean, in the end of the day, I mean, we sit there and talk about the science behind things, and we really don't know sometimes what makes a guitar great. And you know, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely like when you pick up an ESP Japanese guitar, you're gonna you're gonna feel the quality, no doubt.
Right. Right.
It's I mean, it's compared to other great companies like Fender, Gibson, Jackson, Charvel. I mean, when you pick up those high end guitars, and it's right up there with any of those guitar companies.
Right.
Just you know, the,
Well, and
the
it's also kind of a like that when we're talking about it's kind of an unfair assessment because when we're answering the question, like for you, like
going by
we've rewired it and put different electronics in it, and it's not stock electronics. We've upgraded the bridges and things like that, so it's not really apples to apples. But
yeah,
I think if I could say like equate it over to like Fender or especially PRS. Um, so you have the USA core PRSs, which are really good. Their SEs are really good, but there's a
mhm,
difference in the bridges. It's the same bridge, and I could be totally off, but this is the way it looks to me. What I notice is in the core, there is a brass block. There's kind of a pot metal-ish block in the SEs. The saddles are different on the SEs, made of a different material. They're the same though. So maybe that's what you're seeing in the ESPs and LTDs? Maybe?
yeah. A little higher end as far as the hardware and stuff like that, I would say. But
Yeah.
you know, I said the last time I saw my rep from ESP, we had lunch together at Health Fest, and I was telling him because he sent me these new LTDs, which I used all last year on tour, and I'm going to continue to use them. They're great guitars, and he was just like, "Oh, I wanted to get you this, but I couldn't get you this. That's why I sent you this." And I was like, "There's no apology." I said, "This is an amazing instrument." I was telling him, I said, "A great guitar is a great guitar. What there's just because the other one is like the handmade thing or whatever compared to these mass produced instruments. I mean,
Right.
I'm happy, I'm a happy
Right.
camper with CDs.
Well,
And
and we've talked. I know there could be people watching this and they've heard us talk about this before, but the last two that we did, the last two Vs, I think one had one high fret on it, and the other
yeah,
was flawless. The other
and
was
and and the one with the high fret on it was sitting in Poland for 6 years in a
yeah,
warehouse.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
that
they're solid.
yeah,
And if you're looking for one, we may know one may be for sale right now. An
yeah. Well,
arrow.
I do have two guitars for sale.
Yeah, if you send one of us a message, we'll tell you where one could be. Or if you look
Yeah,
at Facebook Marketplace under my name in Fredericksburg, you'll see it. There's 2 on there, and we could be talking in a little code right now. But seriously, they're out there. Check them out, and good guitars too.
oh yeah,
Um,
great.
so let me catch up on comments. Croatian. Yeah. Some of these by the time I see him,
I
I
have a
probably
beat.
passed what he was saying, yep. He has a PRS, SE semi-hollow, it's really nice on par. They are. And I gotta tell you that what I see, some guys doing, because they'll have an issue with the bridge, so you can do one of 2 things with that. There's a company, and if I'm not mistaken, the guy used to work for Paul Reed Smith. The bridge is called Manmade. So if you look up Manmade Bridges, it is an authentic PRS bridge. yours is an authentic PRS bridge, but the saddles are different. And I've had guys bring theirs in here, and we will put different saddles on it, like GravTech, and they're just awesome once you do that. They're not bad. There's nothing wrong with them, but sometimes they, guys like to use their whammy bars sometimes, and when they do that, they'll go out of tune, and so that we'll upgrade the nut if it needs upgraded, and we'll upgrade the saddles. And I mean, it's like a USA. You could do that you could buy the man-made bridge. I think it's maybe $300 or something like that, or you could put new saddles. It's like 50. So it's not on par. So you said it's not on par.
Not on par. Yeah.
It's
not as good as his custom USA.
Yeah, well, yeah, probably because of those things. If you make those upgrades, I have a core, and that other one, after we put GravTech, so they make silver or chrome, nickel, whatever you want to call it, but then it has the graphite piece where the string touches. I've upgraded a couple with those, and they were great. But most of that is the bridge. So I think that's what kind of makes them feel a little funky. The tuners are also not the same tuners always as the core model.
And I think they maybe sometimes the shape of the neck is a little, even though the specs may be exactly compared to like the USA one. It may feel a little bit, but I couldn't even see that.
I'll put it back up in a minute. It's funny. I'm on a podcast selling guitars, it seems. Yeah, I don't know if we told that story, but yeah, I think they're really close. You're gonna tell a little bit of a difference. I think LTD and ESP are maybe closer than PRS Core and PRS SE. But I think some of that is because the metal they're using in the saddles. The base plate seems to be the same. The saddles are definitely different. The block is definitely different. The electronics are definitely different. But that's the interesting part of that. Let's see. This is the one I thought. Yeah, definitely. Cool. And then the Carlo Rebelli. Yeah, I did sell that, and he got it, and loves it. He sent us a picture. I think he posted the picture on social media.
He did. Yeah. He did. He put it up on that Futone page.
Yeah, he put it up on that, and my brother lives up in his direction, so he was passing through here, so he picked it up and took it up to him. So he was pretty happy with it. My brother enjoyed talking to him. They had a pretty cool conversation. But and that was a pretty cool guitar too. He was happy with it. So yeah, I think that could be. What do you have on your list? Are we done? I was wondering if I had enough on my list to make it an hour. We've been an hour and a half.
Yeah. I don't really have much to add. Aside from I'm looking forward to actually, ESP, since I'm an ESP guy. I'm looking forward to seeing what they got coming out for 2025. I'll see next week.
Right.
The Kiesels were pretty interesting. I'm not all that familiar with them. Obviously carving them, next week, guys, we'll have myself and for our band Immolation will be on. So
hey, wait, did we want the couple pieces of eye candy to leave with?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
Wait a minute. I want to highlight a couple projects. God, let me figure out how the hell I did it. Oh, hold on just a second. Oh, there they are. Let me do it. I tell you, if anybody from StreamYard ever does quality control on these, I wish they would make this easier. This is a pain in the ass. So this is a solar guitar that we just did recently. So I I don't know if you can see. Oh, you can see it, but I'm trying to look for my little cursor. I'm moving it on the wrong screen. So we put titanium FU tone inserts in this. Did a setup on it. And this, I told a story about the new Charvel that came in that wasn't awesome a couple weeks ago. He did return that, and he got this. This was phenomenal looking, and played great also. And we also did. Let's see if I can find. We also did some FU tone work on this. There's one thing kind of in particular I wanted to. Oh, here it is right here. Yeah, this has it on it. Let me hit a share again. Yeah, this is the guitar porn portion. These are just a couple cool projects that have come through. This guitar really turned out nice. So this is we did the titanium block. So just so you know, that little piece of tape is there on purpose. I use pickup tape for that. That's to stop the trim. I'm pointing at the wrong place over here. So that's to stop this little screw. Like every time you use the trem arm, you kind of get a little donk with that brass. So that dampens that down. So we put a trem stop, noiseless springs on here, and a brass block, and it turned out great. The problem that I've always had is when I put this stuff in there. First of all, I think it looks pretty cool, and you know, it makes it sound a lot better. But when I put it in there, I slam the cover back on, and I give it back to the person. It's like, well, you just paid this money for this stuff, then you never see it. You just know what's in there. So if you look closely, we had and I have another example of one. I have a friend here in the area that has a laser, and he's been making clear back plates for me. So look kind of cool. We've done one. I did one that I can't tell you which one it was, but it was a while back. It's on my website. It may or may not have a copyright infringement on it, but it just looks kind of cool. And then this was another. We've talked about a lot about LTD. This was a cool one that came in. It was actually on the bench last week. I don't know if anybody could see it behind me. Here's the headstock first. It's Arrow 1000. So that's just a headstock, but we did a lot of upgrades. Yeah, this is cool. I'll get to the cool stuff now. Be nice if you could just switch through the damn pictures. So this one got. Man, a lot of steps.
Red sharp.
Yeah, that looks so.
Oh, and
this got the Mick Thompsons. Finally got to install a set.
yeah. So what's the verdict?
You know what? I forgot when I talked to him today. So if he is watching, he's gonna think I told him a lie. I did hook this up and played it through the Fractal on a dirty channel the other night, and this is the one that is in. I had it in straight up G sharp standard, but it's actually in drop G sharp now, where he wanted it. A little miscommunication. So I think they sounded good. So these have and if you're watching, feel free to say how it's playing in the comments. But in this particular case, so it has 3 different voicings to it. Voice 1 and 2 sound great. This is the install that I did with this is 2 humbuckers, 1 push-pull volume, and 1 3-way switch. That's it. Really clean install. But in doing that, you can only get voice 1 and voice 2. You can't get the 3rd voicing, which makes no sense anyways, because it's 2 single coils. It splits the 2 coils. So he opted out of that. He said he wasn't really interested in voice 3. And I kind of agree with him. And it kind of made a cleaner install too. So I think they sounded good. We tried it today on the tube amp. That setting wasn't good on it. Sounded okay, but he said I got a message, and he said when he played it through his rig at home, it sounded really good.
Is it similar to, like, say, a modern Fluence?
No, much harsher.
Harsher, really?
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
And,
I'm
and
curious,
hearts are in a little darker, I think. Just
you
my
know,
opinion.
Mick is a total guitar nerd, so that I'm really curious about anything he's involved with. I'm sure it would be good because he seems to really know his shit. So
Yeah.
I'm curious about those humbuckers. I
And
have
we
to.
also did just kind of gave this thing the full treatment. Um, Here's another one. So this is one I felt pretty confident that we would be fine with this. So um went with three. We had originally had it red and black springs, which he didn't think it made a big deal because you can't really see them anyways. But when you put a clear cover on the back, you can. But the red springs are a higher tension, and we needed those, so we went with three reds. But you could see we had him etch just to kind of stick with the theme of the guitar. I had that friend, and he's going to start doing these if anybody's interested. We're gonna come up with a way that if you wanted to do an order, measure this, measure that. Here's where the screws are, and then he can
Mm.
cut them and send them to you. But I think, like I said, I think this is a good idea. Wasn't sure how he was gonna like it. He loved it. We did the 7 on it. I figured I was pretty safe. I don't know that anybody has trademarked the word 7 yet. So I felt like we were pretty. I didn't use Mick Thompson or anything on it or Fishman, but the word 7 I thought was cool, and he liked it, and it's lightly etched in there, so it was a cool little touch.
Gene,
So
Gene, Gene Simmons trademarked it. I don't know if you realize
what's that?
that.
Gene Simmons trademarks, yeah, the word 7. He
Yeah, yeah.
figured out how to do it.
He's
Yeah, but
on all these
that
now.
that was one of the cool projects that was in here. That's the guitar I was talking about that had the 14s on it. So, we
Hmm.
did special order those. So one thing, Stringjoy is, thanks to Crochet It. Yeah, it turned out good. It was a good project. It's always fun to do a project with somebody when they come in. And, this same, young man came in here a while ago. He had another one. We've talked about the chips and knockoffs that come in, and we did one with the headset in it, like fully did that thing out, and turned out great. He was happy. He always has cool projects. It's cool to do some neat projects with people. So yeah, so fun stuff. Some fun stuff that's been in here. But where I was going, and then we'll cut this one uh, off. So he wanted a specific, and he always used as a specific set of strings. So he typically reaches out to Stringjoy and gets them. This time I did it. So Stringjoy made up. He had the particular gauges, the particular order he wanted. I think they were like 1468s, something like that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, so it took a couple weeks if you order it from them, but they do special orders, turned out great, um, uh, thick, so big wires on that thing. So,
And
yeah,
that
cool.
what's that guitar tuned to? Is it B or a G or
No,
what?
that's the drop G sharp.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Huh.
it actually sounded really good. It
Hmm.
it sounded so when I had it, like I said, it was a little miscommunication. We kept saying G sharp, and I fixed in on the G sharp, so, and tuned it down to G sharp, and it sounded okay. It sounded way better in drop G sharp. So that
Right.
actually had a pretty gnarly sound to it. But yeah, cool project. The block will give it that ballsy sound with the Mick Thompsons. Should be
Yeah, yeah.
should be a cool guitar for him. He's already dreaming up his next project. So yeah,
Yeah, sharp.
that's a couple of the what's that?
Oh, sharp guitar and really cool stuff done to it. The pickups and
Yeah,
the Epiphone upgrades and
yeah.
yeah, you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, and I've been waiting to get somebody to come in here and get the Mick Thompson so we could hear what, and we're of course gonna put him in Henny's guitar also. So it was good to finally do an install, see how they sounded. A pretty cool project. Like I said, it's cool to some of the companies I'm dealing with, the FU Tone and teamed them up with the Fishman and LTD. Cool guitar, man. Let's see. That's Mask has Drop G getting in the wow, I can't even Ripicolo territory.
Oh, that's a Swedish band. Or not Swedish, Finnish, I think. Could be wrong.
Yeah, I know it. He knows what he wants, so he knows what he's what with it. I just thought it sounded kind of cool, like jazz string 14 gauge. Yeah. Yeah, and they didn't feel like I'm always surprised. Like the 13s and the 14s, you think they're going to be more hateful than they are. They're actually not too bad. They're definitely not nines. So
I'm used to them.
Yeah, you are. You are. You know what I'm not used to is, I mean, as you know, when I pick up your guitar and it's in C with 13s on it, I'm like a fish out of water. I can't make it sound like anything.
It's like anything, you got to get used to it, you know.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know.
Yep. So that's all I have. If nobody else has anything, please subscribe. We picked up more subscribers this week. It's been fun having this many people kind of going back and forth this week. A lot of conversation.
Yeah.
And I think he gave. Wait a minute. Did he give the final score? I think
they were 10. I think I don't know I can't remember what he said.
I think he did. I can't find it.
My dad's probably busted the TV set by now.
Oh, really? Maybe did he take it down? I thought it was up there. Anyways, you can look at it, and I think there was somebody that was in. I forget who it was. You know what? I didn't see the comment. If I miss your comment, I'm sorry. I mean, sometimes I read down and miss some of these. Last week I missed one. I caught it when I was going back and doing the thing. So, he said no spoilers, so he must have deleted it, right? Oh yeah, I guess he did. That's what I remember seeing. Somebody saying no spoilers. All right, so that's all I have. Thanks everybody for joining us. I feel like we have to have Cheech on one week.
Yeah, thanks for thanks to our dedicated listeners that listen every week. You know, for coming on and hopefully to reach more people. It seems that we are. I think when the show first started, it was more like people expecting sitting here talking about death metal the whole time with me. But that's really not the case. And basically our show is just about musical inspiration and get into some of the tools we use to do what we do, and best for us. And it's great to have different people come on and hear their take on things, and it's interesting, for sure.
Well,
hopefully
we got another taker last week. He said that he would come on. So we're kind of getting this little, slowly building this little community of, more and more of these guys are saying, hey, I'll be on. Adam said he would be on again when we get some more local bands on. So I think that's going to be cool when we do that.
Yeah.
So,
and everybody like and subscribe, please. Check out the chat. See, we got plenty of stuff on there and plenty more to come. 2025, we'll have really cool guests. And then next week, it'll be myself and Bob, Immolation once again. Spread the word and jump in next week. If you have any questions for me, Bob, or Roger, jump in the comments and, join in on the chat. So,
yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us later, dudes.
Cheers.